Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 39. Today I'm going to talk about a comic series again, another comic series, which started in the 80s. It was one of my favorites back then, and it was also one of the first series that I got into heavily for DC Comics. I apologize, there is a storm right now, so we might get a thunder blast here. Hopefully it won't come through the window and make my head explode. But anyways, to just be prepared for that. But anyways, yeah, I wasn't collecting DC comics, if at all, when I first started. I mean, for me, it was all Marvel. And as the 80s kind of progressed, and after, say, 86-ish, is kind of when I started to branch out a little bit into DC comics and into independent comics, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that type of thing. Actually, I was in Ninja Turtles a little earlier than that. 85, yeah. But, yeah, so, but yeah, I didn't really get into DC much. I remember Dark Knight coming out. I remember it vividly coming out. And I didn't really jump on it right away. Same thing with Watchmen. I mean, I kept seeing them come out. So, that beginning of the modern age of comics was kind of hitting at that time. And like I said, Watchmen didn't appeal to me because wasn't really a fan of the art. I mean, I think Dave Gibbons is great, and I can appreciate him now. But back then, I wasn't a huge fan of him. V for Vendetta, I was just like, oh, what's this? And Dark Knight looked neat, but I didn't really understand what was going on with it, so I kind of just, shushed it to the side. Got into it a little bit later, especially towards when the Keaton movie was coming out in '89. When everybody went Batman crazy, and I went Batman crazy a little bit myself there. That's when I started to touch back into reading some back stuff for Batman. But a comic series that came out, and I want to say it was 87, 88, maybe even closer to 89. I'd say more 88-ish. I gotta check the first issue and I'll tell you which one it is. It might be 87, but the buddy of mine that the one from Ruther that I met right around that time, he's the one who tipped me off to it. He was reading it and he really liked it. And he said, hey, I really like this comic, Justice League International, and you should check it out. It's got Mr. Miracle in it. It's got Batman in it. It's got these characters, Blue Beetle and Booster Gold. It has I forgot everybody who was kind of in it in the beginning there. And I was like, okay, I'll check it out. He says it's real sarcastic. It's really like neat art, a lot of facial expressions, and real like sarcastic and funny. This Guy Gardner character is, he's a trip. So, sound good to me. So I checked it out. I think the first thing I started with was they had a collected version of, I think, the first 6 issues, I believe, ish. I think it was the first 6 issues. I've got a Justice League International file, and I don't know if I have that specific one in CBR. But I think we picked it up at the Extravacon, or I picked it up at the Extravacon in Royal Oak there at the American Legion Hall. And then I kind of got hooked right away. I understood, well, I can see why this is a popular comic, and I really took to it right off the bat. I really liked Guy Gardner. I think I cut my hair like Guy Gardner, at the time, which is kind of weird. It was essentially just like this weird bowl cut, but I cut my hair like Guy Gardner, and my friend still gives me crap today about the Guy Gardner haircut. I had a Wolverine haircut too for a little while, believe it or not, that I achieved with a blow dryer and some hairspray. And he gave me crap about that. You did weird things like that when you were young. At least I did. Yeah, so as far as what I've got in Justice League International right now, I've got like issue 7. It's sparse. I had issue 1. It went with the Big Purge. I think I had issue 1. Yeah, issue 1, 2, and 3. I found a lot of these for $1 a piece at a comic shop in Saginaw. They had bunch of long boxes, and they said every comic in there was $1. None of them were bagged. A couple of them I think were bagged. I take it back. Some were bagged, some were not bagged. And so any comic in there $1. And I kind of went through and started picking up all of these issues here. It's funny. I went back a couple of times, and I should have took a list so I didn't remember what I had. And I ended up getting doubles of a few. Actually, more than one. I think it happened a couple of times. There's a double. I mean, how can you not remember buying this comic? But double. Yeah, I had a lot of doubles, actually, to tell you the truth. Like I said, I was like, they're $1, and it's like, I can't remember. I was like, this cover. I like whose legs sticking out there, and I'll get to her because she's part of the trap out. Yeah, I must have really liked her legs because I bought it twice. Again, I think you go through those bins and stuff like that, and if you go, like I said, if you go multiple times because you didn't get through all of them in one go, you end up like, did I get that one? Oh, I can't remember. But I was just pulling out anything of the Justice League International or Justice League America when they switched it to a Justice League America. And I'm going to hold up my... I'm going to hold up this issue 34 just so I can use it as a title screen, or as a title thing. But obviously I'm going to hold it up because also I like fire, and I don't believe that's actually fire. I think that's they go to this resort where they're dressed up like superheroes. I can't remember. I mean, I remember exactly the full stint of the story, but I remember they go to this resort where these superheroes. I don't think that's actually fire. It's like some girl who's supposed to be fire, but she's just like, an employee of this resort, this island resort. Yeah, I'll hold that one up. Like I said, I really liked the sarcasm and the wit. And, part of the way I do comics nowadays, because I do a lot of parody, and a lot of it comes from stuff like this. I mean, this is a major influence. I love sarcasm. I used to watch Dave Letterman. I used to stay up back in the 80s and watch Dave Letterman because Dave Letterman kind of had that sarcasm and that wit, and a lot of times it was kind of dry humor, but I just liked it. So it kind of formed how I do comic books nowadays. I would say most of my comedic chops I get in comic books today comes from Justice League International, comes from what do you call it? Venture Brothers, the Venture Brothers TV show, very heavily influenced. I'll have to do a whole episode on Venture Brothers. That was a huge influence. And of course, that came later. Cerebus, I mean, a lot of the sarcasm that was in Cerebus. I mean, even the Ninja Turtles, to some degree, had some funny sarcasm in it. And, today everybody kind of, I've heard people complain, about, it's like, oh, this millennial humor or this zennial humor, where everybody's snarky and everybody's an asshole basically, to each other, and it's just like, like the Velma cartoon, which I'm not saying was great, but I mean they kind of did that. There's been various other shows that did that. I think modern stuff today that kind of does that meta humor. With snarky meta humor, and they were doing that back then. I mean, that's where and John Byrne was doing it again. Another She-Hulk, sensational She-Hulk is probably where I got a lot of my other influence as far as my comedic chops. But people think that's like a modern thing. It's like, no, there are certain people doing that back before in the Gen X generation. I can't speak for anything older than that, but it really got. Kind of in the late 80s, things kind of happened like that. I think, snarky, Dave Letterman's snarkishness, kind of played into that. I think today, sometimes they take it too far, like the Archer cartoon, I kind of like it, but I think they kind of take the joke too far. And I've seen stuff where people, I guess the whole what's his face, Deadpool, that whole thing with Ryan Reynolds, the movies, and they're taking that, but again, that breaking the fourth wall and snarky humor, I mean, that all comes from, I mean, She-Hulk did that, and She-Hulk did it way before the TV show, and Burns started all that stuff. It was just the way they did it. If you read any of the Bullpen stuff, like the Bullpen comics that Marvel was putting out and stuff, I mean, all of those guys were a bunch of jerks, and they're all a bunch of goofballs, and I mean, it goes back to National Lampoons, National Lampoon magazine, or even Mad magazine. I mean, I would say all of that stuff kind of formed that humor, approach to comics, especially being self-deprecating to comics, or self-referential, and self-aware, a lot of selves. But all of that stuff kind of, formed all of that. I mean, this was just one of them, and like I said, I think, I heard people mentioning, like when that Velma cartoon came out, or even Wednesday TV show. I mean, this is recent stuff, but I remember people were complaining. Oh, I saw people on YouTube, of course, being hyperbolic to get clicks, but being contrarian just to be contrarian. But that seems like that happens a lot on YouTube. But I trust me, I'm not contrarian to be contrarian. I'm pretty much giving you exactly how I am, and anybody who knows me, really knows me, they'll ask them, if you ever come across them, which you probably won't. But anyways, if you ever ask me, say, hey, is that how he really is? As in me, I don't like to talk about myself in the third person, because I feel like I got to keep that, that closet narcissism bottled up deep inside. But yeah, people ask me, or people, you want to know, do I say things just to get a rise out of people? Sure, I mean, sometimes, but not in this kind of platform. I mean, like I said, I'm being pretty truthful when I say I don't like something, or I think something shit, or whatever. But yeah, sorry, went on a tangent here. So anyways, I think I should leave that up there long enough to get that to be a screen example. I know, like, there goes Dark Star. I know you can make your own, but I'm lazy, and they give you the 3 choices on YouTube, and I just pick the one that I'm usually holding up the thing that I'm talking about. And that's why I always try not to do videos about things that I don't have at least something physical, because I like to, like I said, I like to talk about things that I physically own. I've got a lot of stuff on the computer, and a lot of it's digital, and and some of the stuff I guess I have no choice. If I want to talk about that stuff, I'm gonna have to use, I don't have anything really to show, but yeah. So anyways, I'm gonna get into the digital stuff here in just a moment. Great cover. They also had great covers. I mean, there were some kind of crappy covers, but a lot of really good stuff. Very, what's his face? Kevin Maguire. I love his art, and he's very, he almost, I don't think he's British. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think he's a British dude. At least when I met him in person, he didn't have an accent. But maybe he is, I guess. I'm not sure. But it has a very British kind of feel. It almost looks like Brian Boland stuff, from Judge Dredd stuff, or even the Brian Boland stuff that he did for, Marvel and DC. I think mostly DC, but yeah, it has that kind of look to it. It's also got, I'm trying to think who else looks like that. I mean, I know, obviously, Adam Hughes ended up working on the book for a while, and I'll talk about the Adam Hughes issue stuff too, but it had this kind of, a lot of facial expressions, a lot of like smug characters, and a lot of characters just emoting really well to kind of convey it, and I really like that. So let me is this an Adam? Yeah, it's an Adam Hughes. Of course, I got 2 copies of this one. An Adam Hughes issue. Try to make myself some room before I knock everything over here. Let's see, do I have any more Adam Hughes? I'm pretty sure I got some names. Yeah, more enemies. That's a great issue. I really like that issue when they're stuck on that little iceberg thing. That was pretty good when, what's her face? Huntress, she was in there. I really liked Huntress then, too. She was in there, and Ice was, you know, not doing too hot. And that was kind of a cool issue. Yeah, I would say probably, that's a great cover. I really like, that's by, McCone? I thought that was okay. I liked it. I just liked, obviously, Dove's doviness right there. I really like that. You probably noticed by now the trend and stuff that catches my eye. That's a good cover when Guy Gardner and Ice were having dealings with themselves, if you want to call it that. Oops. Some of the art got bad, though. I mean, there was some stuff. I don't know who did this one. Carr, Sprouse, a whole bunch of people. Is this an annual? Yeah, this is an annual. Some of the annual stuff was kind of weak, I thought. Certain people do certain characters really well. And this started out, Batman was in it since the get-go, and it started out as kind of a Batman book, and, that's not why I liked it. I know that's what, I think they just put Batman into it. Well, it was the Justice League, but, it was kind of, it's funny with him, too, because he's Batman being Batman, and he's got to deal with, personalities like Guy Gardner and stuff like that, and he's kind of trying to set them straight, set them in line. You got Martian Manhunters there. But let me open up. I want to go through some of the first few issues. I'm going to open up this one here. Switch over. This is it's loading here. This is not the omnibus. I've got the omnibus in my wish list at on Amazon, and I also got the thrift books. Hoping to pick it up used. They're pricey. I mean, you can get it for about $80. I think I can see them as low as $50, $60. I guess that's not a bad price, but it's a lot. I find it a lot of money to shell out. I really like to get the 2 omnibuses because they're pretty much most of my favorite comics of this series are in those 2 omnibuses. And they would take up a lot less shelf space. And they're all colored and digital recolored and stuff. I kind of like that. Let's start out here. I just want to say something real quick, too. So, this happens a lot when I go to conventions, and it seems to happen more often than I wish it would. But, I mean, this comic was hot back in the day, and I go to conventions, and I'm so amazed. Like, I went there one time, and Kevin Maguire is sitting at a table in an Artist Alley, way in, towards, the curtain. They put him in the worst spot. And I saw Alan Davis this way, too. And they're just sitting there. And they have nobody at their table. There's nobody at their table. And I kind of watch as I go by, or from another table looking over, and I see, and I'm like, are they going to ever get any traffic? And they get no traffic. And you're like, this is Kevin freaking Maguire. They had, I remember Chris Claremont was sitting there by himself for the longest time at one convention. Then he finally started to get people to come up. I think once people start telling people, people are literally that dumb. I mean, people are like, hey, that's the guy that created most of the X-Men, and did and created most of the most famous story of the X-Men. Suddenly, huh? And then they go over. It's just like, really? You don't know by the... I mean, I could see if you never saw the person, but in today's day and age with the internet and YouTube, you should be able to see what these people look like. I mean, back in the day, it was a little different for the internet. You didn't know exactly what they looked like since they had a picture in a book, but you should know by the name. You're at a comic book convention. How many Chris Claremonts are there? How many Kevin Maguires are there? How many Alan Davises are there? And it's just like, you don't... it just gives me the... and mostly modern conventions. Wasn't a thing back in the day, because there's a lot. I would say 80% of any convention are of people who don't read comic books. They're either into the MCU, they're into the DC movies, they're into cosplay, they're into anime, they're into video games. They're into something, but they don't actually read comic books, and they especially don't read comic books, older comic books. I think it's starting to catch on a little bit more nowadays, but I think for the most part, you talk to any young person, and they have no idea what this stuff is. That's kind of why I'm making this video too, is I kind of want to, get some awareness out there of this stuff. This is good stuff. You got to go read it. Get the omnibuses, get the collected ones, download CBRs online, do something to get this, but check it out. All right, I'll stop soapboxing about that. But there's issue number 1, classic cover, and they reused that similar, that cover, and they've redone it a bunch of times. I've seen a lot of people copy this cover. But this was the classic when it came out. You've got Guy Gardner there in the front. You got Shazam. You got Dr. Fate. There's Blue Beetle. There's Batman. Martian Manhunter. That's Black Canary. I love the headband. I don't like about Black Canary, and you'll see, is her costume covers up her legs. You don't get to see the Black Canary fishnet legs. She's pretty covered up. But I do like the headband. Headband in the 80s, feathered 80s hair. I love that. There's Mr. Miracle. This is kind of where I started to first really dig Mr. Miracle and learn about Miracle and Oberon and Big Barda, and then kind of got into the Kirby's Fourth World. And this is where I kind of started to, my attitudes on Kirby started to change a little bit. Dr. Light, the female Dr. Light, I can't remember her real name was, but there's Oberon. Yeah, it's look at her costume. It doesn't do, most people like Black Canary for her costume. I mean, she's not the most deep character, but most people that are into Black Canary are into her for her fishnets and her costume, and you get none of that here. But you do get that cool headband. Looks very Tannis from Dragonlance. I like that with that feathered 80s hair. I love that look. So you've got, and there's Miracle and Oberon. Oberon's hilarious too. He's totally a schlub. He's like your classic. He's kind of Jack Kirby. He's kind of he's a little Wolverine in him too. A little bit like Puck from. I mean, he's just like he's that little person. Little fiery little, and he also loves the ladies. I totally understand there. He's obsessed with what's her face, fire, as am I. He really likes fire. And they kind of go, this is, like I said, Justice League of America, whether it's JLA or just Justice League or whatever, that wasn't going on. I don't think it was going. I think it had been discontinued. I think right about it was it got discontinued during the Crisis of Infinite Earths, and so the Justice League International became the new Justice League comic. All right, it's the after, dude. Got a storm brewing. Nice rain on the window, which you probably can hear. I don't know why, but it drips on the east troughs right out my window in my apartment, and it's just loud. It drives me crazy. I just want to point out something else too. So DC also used this a lot, the 9-panel grid. I'm going to go into my comic creating mode here and explain. So yeah, Watchmen used it awful lot. It seemed like a very DC thing to use this 9-panel grid. I don't personally like the 9-panel grid. I usually go on the 6-panel grid, which is like traditional comics, but I'm kind of starting to break that, and I'll explore that. I'm not a fan of these tiny little panels because that's not how I tell stories. You know, it works for a certain type of storytelling. It's not really the type of storytelling that I use. I like a lot of big open panels, and I usually put a few characters in it, and I like it to look a little more cinematic, as opposed to like these point illustrations. And not to say the Black Canary doesn't look bad in those outfits. I love the giant buccaneer boots, but I'd rather have the legs. There's Batman there. He tells Guy Gardner to sit down, and then gets a Guy Gardner. It kind of freaks at first, and he's like, yeah. Kind of funny. So, where are we going with this one? Like I said, this is the first few 6 issues. This is also collected in that other trade paperback, which I still don't have my copy anymore, so I still have it on Thrift Books, trying to score myself a copy of that on the cheap. I think everything I want to do on the cheap. I don't like to pay top dollar for anything. I'm cheap. I think it's why I have money. It's because I'm cheap. I mean, I do spend a lot, too much sometimes, but I try to get things on the cheap. Always looking for the deal. Here's it's a great shot of Booster Gold. Really good shot of Booster Gold doing Monitor Duty. Monitor Duty, and I've made fun of Monitor Duty in my comics, my parodies, but Monitor Duty just seemed like a thing that nobody wanted to do. And everybody got stuck with their rotation, monitoring for things happening that they need to, the Justice League needs to take care of. The Avengers did this, but they really took it in a very comedic angle in Justice League International with the Monitor Duty, and that's where I got that from. I really like that. It's funny. Usually somebody either falls asleep on Monitor Duty, somebody just skips their Monitor Duty altogether. It's pretty funny. A lot of times it's punishment. It's like, oh, you did something wrong. Guess you're getting extra Monitor Duty. Personally, I would have loved Monitor Duty. Hey, especially if nothing's going on. You're like, they puts them to sleep. What's wrong with getting a snooze? What's wrong with just sitting there? I'd get a book out, get some comics and read them, draw some pictures, listen to some music, right? Monitor Duty, it's like a security job. If you ever worked a security job, which I did briefly, it's great. You get a lot of, catch up on a lot of stuff. But obviously the superheroes, they want action. Me so much, I would rather just not have that much action. So yeah, like I said, there's that 6-panel grid. Now they have the rounded panels. I like it. I don't dislike it. I just prefer the other one better. I'm trying to skip forward here because I want to go into these absurd characters. I love them, and they really do that a lot in Venture Brothers. They make fun of like really absurd character costumes and character concepts. I just think that's hilarious. So I guess I do like to deconstruct the superhero genre, or concept, but I don't like a serious deconstruction. Like Watchmen to me was a serious deconstruction of the superhero, and I would prefer a comedic deconstruction of it, which is kind of what I do. I guess just in general, I like comedy better. I'm not a serious person. I don't take myself seriously. I use humor to cope with life. Sometimes my humor can get on people's nerves, because people, they think I'm not taking life seriously, but, I'm always taking life seriously, trust me. But in order for me to cope, I resort to, my defense mechanism is comedy, is things that are funny, and so, I guess I prefer funny stuff. I love sitcoms. A lot of people hate sitcoms. I love sitcoms. I think they're very entertaining. I've been watching Welcome Back, Kotter lately. I've been watching on Tubi, and I've been watching It's a Living, and realizing how much I like that show. I used to watch it as a kid, but I didn't really get it. Now I get it, and It's a Living's pretty funny. I love my Dot. Oh, Dot on It's a Living. She's my favorite. And that's before what's her face, the other Southern girl starts. Well, I also like her, which I always thought she'd be a good rogue. I can't remember what her name is off the top of my head, but yeah, the girl from It's a Living, the Southern girl who came on, I think, in the 2nd season. I think she replaced Dot. Or no, Dot was still there. I can't remember. But yeah, I love my Dot. Um, I love dots and Juji fruits, by the way. Sorry. Um, I'm trying to find when is that ice right there? I'm trying to remember when Fire and Ice joined. I think they call her Green Flame originally, and I can't remember what Ice Maiden. I think they called her. Um, but eventually they just shortened it to Fire and Ice. Oh yeah, I can't remember what they're called. The card. Oh, Royal Flush Gang. Yeah, they're pretty funny. They show up in the Justice League cartoon, the Justice League International cartoon. Oh, I really liked What's Her Face. I really liked What's Her Face. I thought both Booster Gold's hilarious. I like that whole angle. As an annual, just trying to find again. See some of the annuals. The art's a little wonky. I think it's not too bad. I mean, mechanically it's great. I think it's mechanically it's good. Actually, this art's not that bad. I don't know who does this. Sorry, I gotta find out who does it. And of course they're not going to tell you. Let's see. Oh, it's Bill Willingham. That's Bill Willingham? It's got different. That does not look like Willingham. Yeah, I don't know if you know who Willingham is, but he did. He started out in old school Dungeons and Dragons, and then of course he went on to do The Elementals, which is another comic I need to talk about. An indie comic from Comico. And I'm really getting in the weeds with that one because I know nobody's gonna. It's just like nobody cared about my X Mutants video. Nobody cared about that. Nobody's gonna care about the Element. I mean, there might be a little more to Elementals, but I did some Elemental parodies, and it flopped. Nobody liked it, so I don't think anybody's really super. So you might not know who Willingham is. He also did. He wrote Fables for Vertigo for the longest time, so you might know him from there. For his writing, not necessarily his art. But I guess it's Willingham, huh? It's interesting. He did an adult comic called Ironweed or Ironwood, I think. I really liked that. I thought that was funny. It was very funny, comedic, and had sexy ladies doing naughty things. I love the giant Buccaneer boots. I love them when they have the giant cuffs on them. I think that looks so cool. What am I on? Issue 5? Well, I'm only on issue 5. Sorry, I'm going to skip ahead here. I might have to go to another one of these volumes. I apologize for the flipping of the pages so fast. But what I'm looking for is, I want to see, I can't remember when Ice, Fire, and Captain Atom. I'm just going to talk about briefly, but when they came out with Justice League Europe, which came out, I want to say in the 89? Yeah, 89. It was a spin-off of Justice League International, and Power Girl was in it. I really like Power Girl. I mean, who doesn't like Power Girl? But she was in that. Animal Man, Metamorpho. I really liked Metamorpho, too. He was really cool. Captain Atom. They have a really cool Captain Atom DC Multiverse figure coming out that I may pick up. And they have a Blue Beetle. I think it's a Target exclusive. Like I said, I don't know if I'm going to pick... Like I said, I'm trying to keep it sparred down to just getting the ladies and not getting up to getting the dudes, but there's a few dudes I'd like to have. When does she join? Or were they, both of them, when did they join? Oh, Eliza Sear. There she is. I don't know if this is the issue where she joins. Maybe? I can't remember. I gotta go back and read these. I forgot. But there's Ice. Fire and Ice right there. Ice is the green-haired girl, and I love green hair. And I love this, like, 80s, whatever they call it, like furry, bouffant hair. I mean, I like the white hair with, like, the kind of cap look, too. But Ice was my favorite, obviously, for obvious reasons. But I have this figure. So this is a Not a huge fan of it, but this is a DC Direct. What do you call it? DC Direct? DC Justice League International figure of Ice. It's kind of cool. You see her hair. So this is that specific costume. You can see her from behind. I'm not a huge fan of it. Her legs are too long. Her she's just too elongated, too stylized. The face looks amazing. I think the face looks great. It doesn't really look like the character so much. I guess kind of, sort of. She has like a kind of green Adrienne Barbeau hairstyle. So I kind of noticed just looking at this. But, yeah, I wasn't a huge fan. I think her hips are too narrow. She's supposed to be Brazilian. And I like my Brazilian ladies. And I think her hips are a little too narrow. Butt's a little too flat for a Brazilian girl. On the action figure. They draw her just fine in the comic, trust me. And obviously when Adam Hughes got a hold of it, Adam Hughes is notoriously draws girls with... There's a joke with Wonder Woman where she's trying to squeeze into her outfit. It's Frank Cho does the art, and she's like, I liked it better when Adam Hughes drew me. I could actually fit into my costume. I thought it was kind of funny. It is true, sometimes he did that, but Adam Hughes did a good job with the ladies. Obviously, that's what he's known for. But this is the only one I have. I wanted Ice. I picked her fire here up for like $13 on Amazon. Now, for some reason, they've gone up in price, like astronomically. I also don't like the way the stand is. You can put her on a different stand. The stand comes with them. Weird how she's pushed over to the side. But, yeah, I wanted them all. I'll flip over real quick here. Let's see where we at. Are we on, yeah, right here. So I looked them up here. Here's, just put this image up here. So these are the DC directors. Ice, she's okay. Not much articulation. They have elbow and knee joints, but they don't really articulate well. I think they do have ball joints in the arms. Yeah, she's got ball joints in the arms. So you can, in her head swivels on a ball, but she's got her hair in her outfit. But you can make her like she's conjuring up some flames, kind of do that. But she's got this, contrapposto hip kick to the hips here, and it's just like, well, she can't really do much. I guess you can kind of move her around a little bit, but she's basically just going to keep standing there. I guess the stand does hold her pretty well. So yeah, so you can put her, I guess, in some poses, but she's not super articulated. Actually, that looks pretty decent. Maybe. But I wanted them all. I wanted, I think the Black Canary looks better. She seems like she looks better too. She's more flat, firmly planted on the ground. Of course, they put Fire's got heels on, but Booster Gold, hey, Booster Gold, being based Booster Gold. Yeah, I wanted all of these, but they're pricey. They're going for like $50 some a piece. See, like right here, look at that. Fire is going for $68, $45 for Ice, $33 for Black Canary. That's not super bad. These are, by like Marvel Legends, money or DC Direct. These are actually close to that, but they're pricey. I'd like to have all three ladies, and I'd like to have these two, and then Martian Manhunter maybe. The other two, I don't really know. Batman, the other Green Lantern guy, I don't really care so much about. I forgot what his name is. I can't remember. I remember when he shows up. But yeah, so here's the other thing. I want to point this out too about DC Direct. In the 80s, after DC Superpowers and Secret Wars went away, you couldn't beg, borrow, or steal a superhero action figure in the late 80s. And they had a lot of great comics to draw from, and it would have been great. We didn't get action figures again I mean, we did, I guess, with Batman. When the Batman '89 movie came out, they started putting out a few non-Batman related action figures. Not many. And then when Toy Biz, well, Toy Biz did those too, but when Toy Biz got the Marvel license, they put up Toy Biz, and then they did the X-Men, stuff like that. But that was into the '90s and Spider-Man. But I'd say maybe the mid to late '90s is when, like I said, I really wasn't into comics at the time, at least these comics, and DC Direct just seemed like they just started coming out with just millions of figures. Like, you go to a comic store and there'd be a whole wall of these DC Direct figures, and some of them were cool. I'd say more 80, 98, and like the turn of the century, I guess, the turn of the millennium. And I remember even being in the 2000s going to a comic book shop when I lived down in Virginia, there in Washington, D.C., and I was just like, there's so many, and it's just hard to, and I thought they were expensive at the time. They're like $20 at the time. That's normal now, but I should have jumped on some more of these. But like I said, some of them were good. None of them really articulated well. That's the problem with the '90s. The '90s really took the McFarlane thing where they wanted lots of detail, lots of washes and whatnot, and they kind of made them the 6-inch, 7-inch figure scale, but they couldn't make them, the technology to make them articulated wasn't that great. And I don't really care for a lot of articulation. I sound kind of like I'm contradicting myself, but it's like I like limited articulation, but I like good poses, and I guess this isn't terrible, but I like they're more or less just glorified statues, that you can move a little bit. Inexpensive. They're not like $1,000, $500 sideshow collectibles. So in that regard, they're fine. I think the Marvel Legends are fine. I think they're a little too, obviously, gotta stand her back up. She keeps falling over. My Dark Star, I guess comparatively, I think they're this is a little bit too much articulation. It's not terrible, actually, and I think they're fine. The G.I. Joe Classifieds. I think the Multiverse are fine. Multiverse are really good. I just wish the Multiverse, and I keep saying this, and of course, people think I'm crazy, but it's just like I want more. I don't want more Batmans. I know he sells. But you know what? You could, if you're making that much money making umpteen thousand Batmans, I want you to just kick out a couple of other characters every wave. And I know he sort of does that, but they're never ones that I want. I want a Fire and Ice DC Direct. That'd be nice. They make a Booster Gold and the Blue Beetle, and they've got a Batman, and they got a Martian Manhunter. Can't we just get a Black Canary, Fire and Ice too? We pretty much have the whole crew. And a Guy Gardner. I'm surprised I haven't had a Guy Gardner yet. And he's of that time. McFarlane's of that time. He knows those comics, and I'm sure he probably liked them, I would think. But, yeah, so, I just want to, okay, let's touch on one more thing here. I'm going to switch gears a little bit with Fire and Ice, specifically, and I'm going to go to this issue here. So, this is when Adam Hughes I think was already on the book by this time, but this is when he redoes, it's very rare that you get Adam Hughes interior art, and he's better than Maguire. I mean, I give him that. He is a lot better than Maguire, but at the same time, I think Maguire's great too. But, so anyways, what's her face? Ice decides, I guess this costume's not sexy enough. Or I can't remember what her rationale was, but she wanted a new look. So she ends up, basically she just puts on a corset with some cowboy boots, all green, or, various shades of green, which I like, to match her hair and her eyes, but, because she does the green flame thing. But she does this, I did a parody of this specific page, too. I thought it was pretty funny. But yeah, she wants this new look, and then she tells Ice like, "Hey, your suit's looking a little." And actually, this is the new suit. Oh no, something about her suit's too conservative. I can't remember what it was. See, you're an exhibitionist. Blah blah blah. But I actually like, even though I like the legs on Ice, I do like this costume. I like the furry boot, the furry or muckalux over her thing, and I like the two-tone, the white and the blue. I know it's very 90s-ish looking, but I like that. As what's her face, Dr. Fate, the girl Dr. Fate. I really like that too. Thanks, Oberon. But yeah, I think she ends up burning down the room or whatever. She accidentally uses her powers. That's kind of what I made fun of in my parody of it. But yeah, so there's Huntress. Like I said, I really like Fire and Ice, and I even like this version. I mean, obviously, I like the more showing more skin, but at the same time, I like this version too. I love the hair, I love the headband. And I liked her hair, how it wasn't so shower or swimming cap look. She kind of more like a bob with these bangs. I like that. So I really like the Huntress too. There's Guy Gardner's on monitor duty again. But yeah, the artwork's really good in this with Adam Hughes on the job, and he does a pretty decent amount. I think they modeled this after the Starbird Avenger toy. I think so. It's kind of funny. There's some ice back there and some bum there, or boom boom, or however you pronounce that in Brazilian or Portuguese. Brazilian. But yeah, so I like this issue. I just wanted to point that issue out. This one she changes her costume to this newer costume. It's an Adam Hughes book. Actually, let's pull this one up real quick because I was talking about this. Like I said, I think they go to Club JLI. Yeah, it's like this club, this resort. It's based on the Justice League International, so they have, all their employees and stuff are all modeled after the characters. Like they have, the cigarette girl as Power Girl, and then it's funny. I don't think they ever show her the Ice character in this issue. She's just on the cover. I always thought she was in there. But again, I am assuming it's supposed to be one of the employees, but maybe not. Maybe it's Ice. Maybe it's just it's playing where I play on the, you got these two schlubs, and she just doesn't look like she's happy about the situation. But anyway, so yeah. So I've talked about the action figures. I've talked about, like I said, there's an omnibus, 2 omnibuses out. If you want to track down the issues. I just find it a lot easier to read the collected works. But what do we have in time? That's probably about time to wrap it up. Okay, so again, JLI, Justice League International, is one of my favorite comics series. Like I said, Fire and Ice are both some of my favorite characters of all time. I really like green. I'm not saying green is my favorite color, but it seems like a lot of things, say comic book related, like She-Hulk's skin, Rogue's costume, Ice. I really like green, or I really like out of the green. Maybe it is my favorite color. I don't know. But it's just on girls with green hair. I think that's really cool. I like that a lot. It's very comic booky. It's very I don't know if say in real life. Although I remember I did go to college when there was this one girl, kind of gothy girl, and she had green hair and green eyebrows. I wonder if she went the whole 9 yards. But anyways, she had kind of green hair. She was pretty cute. I liked her a lot. I just remember this one time when she banged her knee. She had those giant, big goth boots on, and I think they kind of tripped her up trying to get out of the desk, and she ended up banging her knee like right in the corner of the table. And I remember going down, and it was just like going like, oh, that had to hurt. But I wonder whatever happened to her. Hey, if you're watching, if you ever see this video, which you probably won't, give me a message. I want to see what happened to you. I can't remember what her name is. She was in my myth, magic, and folklore class. Yeah. Sorry, I was recollecting. Anyways, yeah. So Justice League in America, Justice League International, Justice League America, major influence on my artwork, a major influence on my storytelling. One of my favorites of all time. Highly, highly recommend seeking these issues out. You know, and kind of reading the whole thing. Again, I mean, I'm probably going to do a Mr. Miracle and Big Barda video at some time. And this is where I kind of learned of Mr. Miracle first, was from Justice League International, you know, and then learned about Kirby's Fourth World and the New Gods and all that type of stuff. So, anyways, not sure what's coming up tomorrow. I kind of knew I was going to do this video today. I'm probably going to stay in the comic realms, and there's still other comics that I want to talk about, a lot of influential comics, because I think that the comics, yeah, I mean, I love my toys, and I love my action figures, and they do go hand in hand with the comics most of the time. I think I'm going to talk about some comics more, and eventually I'm going to move into the music. Like I said, once I get a decent album collection going, and I got something to say about music in albums, and that type of collecting. Like I said, I consider my drawing, the action figures, role-playing games, comic books, all that stuff, and music is all part of it, especially when it comes to soundtracks, soundtrack work and stuff like that. It all kind of plays in together. You know, I'm a creative person, and I play instruments too, and so I just love, you know, to be creative. You know, it's what I do for a living, and that's what I've always done my entire life. It's probably, if anybody knows me, it's probably the biggest thing to know is you know, knowing me for my imagination and my creativity, amongst other things. You know, my proclivities, things like that. But all right, so I will talk to you guys tomorrow with another video, and gotta keep hammering it. Subscribe. You know, help me build this channel up. Build it up and get the message out to more people. All right, I will talk to you later. All right, bye.